And we'll get back to that point here in just a few minutes. But all too often, that's what a church looks at. The count noses and numbers. How many people are sitting in the pews? How many dollars are going to the bank? That's what a lot of churches will define as a definition of health. Oh, we have more people this year than we had last year. That's good. Well, you may have more people, but you may be half full of unbelievers. If you're not seeing conversions, then don't know how healthy the church is. And of course, we know how the bank account money. Everybody looks at that. Oh, we got more money in the bank than we had last year. Well, to me, this is just my twisted perspective. There's nothing wrong with having more money in the bank as long as you're doing more ministry to get it and not just setting back saving, which I've seen several churches do. Anyway, Mark Dever defines the church this way. A healthy church is a congregation that increasingly reflects God's character as His character has been revealed in His Word. So the church reflects what God looks like as they read and they understand and they grow to be more like Christ, and the church grows to be more like Christ. So there's 4 various definitions. But you see that there's continuity between them. There's things that connect them together. They're not drastically different. So when you think of a healthy church, what are some things that come to mind? What marks a healthy church? Faith, gospel. Right. Yeah, all those are great answers. Just like Tom said regarding definitions of a healthy church, there are quite a few things that people will say are marks of a healthy church. But everybody's number differs slightly, or everybody's lists are going to differ slightly. But again, you're going to see things that are consistent throughout most of them. A number of years ago, Mark Dever wrote a book called The 9 Marks of, let me restate that, 9 Marks of a Healthy Church. It's not the 9 marks, because he says there's more than 9. This is just 9 of them. He's very adamant there's no "the" in front of it. Now, if you look at the first edition as compared to the newest edition, he probably should have renamed it 11 marks, but what he did was he took 4 of them and condensed them to 2 so he could add 2 new ones. But he brought, I think missions and evangelism were separate, he brought them together. So he connects things that can be connected. That's a great list to look at. As I was studying this and looking back through my notes, I have caught articles and saved articles and things for I don't know how many years. I don't know how far back some of my stuff goes that I've saved online. Originally, I was bookmarking links to various articles, and I found out that a lot of times they would change the way the website was structured. The links didn't work anymore, so I actually went to saving actual articles. But in mid-2019, okay, what happened in 2020? COVID happened. Okay, so this is about 9 months before COVID, okay? It was an article that lists 10 changes that would be seen in healthy churches in the next 10 years. So by 2029, this was some things that this author said they saw as coming, okay? Now it's interesting when we look at it today, how much COVID advanced some of these, okay? So just looking through a portion of them, there will be a high intentionality of evangelism and gospel presence. You know, we've kind of got away from that. If you build it, they will come attitude. You know, you build this huge, great big building, everybody, ooh, let's go see what's in the building. That don't work anymore, does it? We have to be intentional with our relationships, evangelize those that we love, those that we work with, in order to, for them to come. He wrote, then we're presently in the stage of non-intentionality, and our low conversion churches reflect that reality. We had more of an attitude of, okay, whatever happens, happens. But now we see more of an intentionality. Churches will be favored in the community. You know, you think back, and I don't know that this one is going to come to pass. I think we're seeing less favor in the community personally. But there for a time, think about right there during COVID, everybody was looking to the churches for you know, the food pantries, everything that they were offering. I mean, and how many ministries were working through the churches and things like that to get the resources out to the people. So at least for a time, I think the church was favored in the community. Whether by 2029 that's still the case, I don't know. The digital church will be clearly defined. Think about 2019. How many sermons did you watch online? How many services were you at home and watched online? Not that many. I was at a rather large church. We had the technology. We were doing it. Nobody stayed at home and watched it online. Everybody was in the building. But he said by 2029, and we debate about the digital church, is the online church really a church? By 2029, healthy churches will have settled that issue. I anticipate the digital church will be viewed as a vital and complementary component to the in-person church. Now, I'll say about that is one thing that I think has happened is that a lot of people have said, well, I can just do this from home, I don't need to go. And I don't think he saw that coming. But we, at our previous church, we saw a lot of that people just didn't come back because they enjoyed drinking their coffee in their pajamas and watching it on their 55-inch television. And if they didn't like it, they just changed the channel, watch something else. It's nice to have when you're not able to be there, or you're out of town or something like that. But some people have made it a substitute for gathering together, and the church is a gathering of people. Healthy churches will not have members holding the congregation back for sacred cows and traditions. What did COVID do? It took care of a lot of that, didn't it? We no longer held on to some of the things that we so tightly held on to for so long, because it's like we realized that doesn't matter. The gathering of the body, the people being together, that's what matters. And so we let some of those things go. Most worship gatherings of healthy churches will be 200 and under. And even large churches will have smaller worship gatherings. You know, for years, even within the Southern Baptist Convention, it's been said that churches 75 or less were considered small. That's not the case anymore. 75 is considered normal. That's a normal sized church. Most churches are far less, are 200 or less. Now, just a few years ago, that the number was higher, but now 200 or under. Tom Rainer had an article I read a few months ago. He was talking about, said, we're not even sure what to call churches that are bigger than 200 because of how things have changed, how society has shifted. Still, mega churches are considered 2,000 or greater. Churches will feel more connected with the networks rather than the denominations. There's a little bit of that, but healthy churches in 2029 will be more innovative in how they utilize their facilities. Most congregations don't come close to utilizing their facilities effectively today. And that's true. I mean, we heat and cool buildings that sit empty 75% of the week. I'm being generous. I mean, that's a problem. And, but I think churches are beginning to see ways to deal with that. Having other congregations meet, staggering times and things like that. At the office, we have 6 different congregations that meet on Sunday. It's a game of chess, getting people out and in and not stepping on toes and still giving time to, if pastor runs a little long, it's okay. If people want to stand around and talk for a few minutes, it's okay. They don't have to scatter as soon as the service is over. So that works out well. And we've got a building that basically from 9 o'clock on Sunday morning to 5 o'clock on Sunday evening is fully utilized. We've got somebody somewhere just about all the time. Corporate prayer will be central to the healthy church in 2029. I think we've seen that even with COVID. We've seen a re-emphasis on prayer, which we desperately need. So as y'all mentioned, here's a few things that we cover them, we touch on again. Biblically sound. Okay? Church has got to be biblically sound. Everything you do, build on Scripture. Nothing is just the imagination of man, but rather build on Scripture. Biblical preaching. I argue in favor of expositional preaching, which is taking the text. What does the text say and pulling the meaning out of that? Not taking and doing what has been done in many places is, here's this text and here's what I want it to say. But actually explaining what it does say. Stumbled across this in a book. It says, a Colorado church recently used a church staffing website to advertise its need for a pastor who would be willing to re-preach the sermons of famous preachers word for word in exchange for 90% of the tithes and offerings. We have everything needed for the church, the ad read, except the pastor. Yep. Yeah, to preach something that somebody else has already preached. I mean, that's, now, granted, Spurgeon had some great sermons. There's been great sermons preached throughout history, but to re-preach them, I don't know about that. I don't like redoing some of my stuff. I don't know about redoing somebody else's. Fellowship. That was one thing we tiptoed around it, but we didn't say specifically. We need fellowship. We need to be together with one another. You can't do that online. It's just, you just can't do it. We need to be warm. We need to be welcoming. We need to be gospel-centered. Everything the church does needs to be centered in the gospel, and on the gospel. It's got to be the primary thing that we do day in and day out. Now, as I mentioned, we moved our membership back in, I think it was March. This when we left our old church in February. We visited around. Okay, I can tell you for a fact there are some unwelcoming churches in Charlotte. Okay, do not feel like you're welcome when you go there. Feel like I'm out of place. This is a club. I'm not a member, and that's the way it feels. There's a lot of very welcoming churches. We visited a number of those. There was one that it blew my mind. I mean, there was probably at least a half a dozen or more who come over, introduced themselves, wanted to know who we were, all this sort of stuff. And when one of them found out that I was from Marion, they said, "Oh, you need to talk to this lady." Okay. They went and got her and brought her to me for me to talk to her. Come to find out, she graduated about 2 or 3 years before my mom did from the same high school, and actually probably graduated with my aunt, but I didn't realize that she graduated with my aunt, but she did remember my mom from high school. They didn't know each other, but they knew of each other. Now, that was very welcoming. There were some other things about that church. It's like, "Oh, we're not going back." So, that's the truth of what's going on in the other churches around us. Okay. One of the worst influences on the church over the last 20 years was the attractional church model. Now, you may not remember it that way or using that term. That was your churches. That was the model that was championed by Anthony Stanley at North Point, Rick Warren and Saddleback, Bill Hybels and Willow Creek, and there was others going to make the church attractive. Okay, make the building nice, make the people nice. Everything you do is spent and polished and rehearsed and performed, and everything is just absolutely perfect. It's all reviewed on Monday or Tuesday. What went wrong, what went right, so that you can get it right the next week. One of the downsides to that is that it was great to get people in the door, but they were an inch deep and a mile wide. They had no depth. They were there. They were really about all you can say about it. If they became a believer, a lot of times it was only a neighbor in the head, it didn't make it as far as the heart. Someone once said, many people miss heaven by 18 inches, and that's roughly the distance from the brain to your heart. Jared Wilson writes, "The attractional model has fooled us into thinking it offers innovation when it's really just your grandfather's old church legalism with a fresh coat of paint. It hinges on a list of do's and don'ts. You can't do this, you can't do that, but you can't do this, you can't do that." People want to be spoon-fed that kind of thing. They don't realize we live under grace. We don't have to fight with that nonsense anymore. We've got instructions. We know what we're supposed to do. It's been said that what people are one with is what you have to keep. So if somebody comes to a church, they see this grand stage, all the lights go down when it's time for the service to start. You have these outstanding singers. They're nice looking, they're young, everything's just, played to where everybody's right where they need to be. If that's what the people come for, that's the only thing they're going to stay for. If that goes away, they're going to go away too. Be careful that don't get caught up in this consumerism. And there's a lot of people that they just want church hop. Oh, I've been there all night. Let's go somewhere else. things get rough, then we'll go somewhere else. We'll stick it out through the hard stuff, then we'll be there for the easy stuff. It's interesting as we left our own church, being in it, the view is different than being outside. We couldn't see it. So as a part of it, we look around and we're like, things are going great. Everything's running okay. The pastor had left and they put together a pastor search committee and everything. That happens. We've been through it before. I've been on a pastor search committee. But everything looked like it was a well-oiled machine. Everything was working well. There's some little things, the cobwebs in the corner that you don't think a whole lot about. But when we left and began to process what we were seeing, what we saw, it's like, that's not as healthy as it looked like. And you've got to deal with the health internally before it's going to be healthy externally. If you're sick on the inside, you'll be sick on the outside. So you've got to deal with that making sure everything is healthy. Church size is not a characteristic of a healthy church. There are many churches which are healthy but small, and many churches that are unhealthy or large. But being small doesn't guarantee health. Being large doesn't guarantee unhealth. There's a mix there, and that's important to remember, because again, we don't want to get caught up in noses and numbers and counting heads. And this is kind of some of the disjointed stuff, because I just began to kind of throw things down. It's crucial that you know what you believe and why you believe it. A lot of people don't. They will, well, why do you believe that? Well, because that's what they taught me. That's wonderful. Glad you were taught well. That's great. But why? Why do you believe it? Because there's going to be people that ask you, why do you believe it? We have to be able to answer that. There was, I'm sure you remember years ago, or at least some of you do, the bumper sticker that read, God said it, I believe it, that settles it. Remember those? It's theologically wrong, right? That's not what it should say. What it's actually saying is whatever God said is settled if you believe it. To be correct, you need to read God said it, that settles it. It don't matter if you believe it or not, it's the truth. There's nothing we can do about that. Doesn't matter if we like it, we got to deal with it. There's things this book says I don't like. That doesn't change the fact they're in there, and I got to live with it. I still don't know why we have to read numbers, but it's there. But there are far too many churches that will take, pick, and choose and say, this is what we believe, and not believe all of it. I was looking over your Constitution. I've been sending a copy of it. And I like what the purpose says. The purpose of this body shall be to provide regular opportunities for public worship, to sustain the ordinances, doctrine, and ethics set forth in the New Testament for the church of our Lord Jesus Christ, to nurture its members through a program of Christian education, channel its offerings to the support of the apologies of the Redeemer's kingdom, and to preach and propagate among all people the gospel of the revelation of God Christ, Savior and Lord. It's a fantastic purpose. And that's what the church needs to be doing. Not getting caught up in carpet color, paint color, and those little things that far too often, that's what churches divide. I grew up, I think I mentioned it, a little Pentecostal church, okay? Very dull. It is not like the Pentecostal churches I've seen on TV and videos and stuff. It was very dull. Found out later, looking back now, it wasn't a healthy church. That could have had something to do with it. But the story is told to me that church was started because a group of people from the Methodist church left over carpet. They couldn't agree on carpet color, so they said, we'll leave. Now, keep in mind, not only did they leave, they went to a completely different denomination. These two churches are less than a mile apart on the same road. Now, the small Pentecostal church has been bought by a Hispanic Baptist congregation. So it's Baptist church now. English Baptist church across the road, Hispanic Baptist church, and the whole Pentecostal church. And I think the Methodist church is just waiting for the last few people to finish dying. It's sad to say, but it's true. That's the state they're in. That is a cold church. The bulk of our family, with a large majority of our family, is buried in that cemetery. And they have the traditional homecoming every year, covered ditch, all the good stuff. Last time we went, the only people that spoke to us was the people who knew us. That was it. And they had known me since I was big. And it was just a very cold, unwelcoming. I was glad Mama had cooked a lot of food because otherwise I wouldn't have found a lot to eat. There was some good desserts, so I will say that. But yet, again, they're just holding on, mainly because they won't give up, they won't change, they won't do anything but what they're doing in order to survive. If the church isn't built on the foundation of God's Word, it's not going to stand. Everything that's done has to be built on this book. Nothing else. We take it, we look at it, we study it, we figure out what it says, and that's what we do. It's, Acts 1:8, you'll be my witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and othermost parts of the earth. As you look through the book of Acts, you see that mission carried out. You see them in Jerusalem. You see them in Judea and Samaria. And then ultimately Paul going wrong or further. Depends on who you read. Andrew probably made it into what we would call what's now India, is what most historians believe. Why did that happen? The church was persecuted. They pushed the Christians out. When they pushed them out, they took the message with them. So as we go, every time we leave the building, we need to think about that, is that we leave, we're taking that message with us wherever we go, whoever we see. We try to get that so that the message makes it from our mouth to their head and their heart. Because that's what connection's got to be. Connection to Christ has got to be through the heart, not just through the head. We know a lot of stuff about a lot of things, don't we? I know far too much about some of the Ford trucks, but that doesn't make it to here. If questions? No, that's great. Lord, again, we just thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to as we go out this week. I pray that you will do your work, do what you called us to do, be faithful to listen for that still small voice that calls to us as we are out and about. Just again, be with Anthony as he travels and work in that situation for your glory, for all our other prayer requests. I just lift them up to you. Pray that you work in each situation as you see fit. Ask all these things in Christ's name. Amen. Thank you. Y'all have a good rest of the week. Bob will be with you Sunday. We'll talk about it today. I thought he was on vacation next week. I'm like, Bob, you're on vacation next week, right? No, I'm